This was a giant waste of time. Hey everyone, I'm Ashley from Art Summits, and color mixing charts are a really helpful way to understand what the possibilities are with your paint colors. But I see so many people making charts like this, and unfortunately, there are a number of things wrong with these charts, and I hope that if you've made one in the past and walked away feeling like you didn't really know what you got out of it, or that it was, like I said, a giant waste of time, then I hope that it doesn't discourage you from learning color mixing, because there is hope. So I'm going to explain why this chart is not a good chart to make and you should never make one, and I'm going to tell you what to make instead to help you really understand your colors. Problem number one is you are duplicating the same information. So the way this chart works, if you haven't made one of these before, you put all of your colors across the top and the bottom, and then you mix them depending on where they are in the grid. So if this is a burnt sienna and I want to mix it with black, this is where that color mixture would lie in the grid. The problem with this is that it's kind of like a multiplication table when you have, numbers along the top and the side, and then going diagonally you have like the square in the case of math, or in this case, the pure pigment. So, right here, this is warm red, and warm red is just warm red. Same thing, this is a cool red, a warm yellow, cool yellow, all the way down. These are the actual paint swatches straight out of the pan. I'm not really going to go into what colors I used or what paper I used. You can tell I used the cheap stuff. It's kind of bleeding all over the place, but I just wanted to get this exercise done quickly because I knew it was going to be a waste of time. So as I was saying, this chart duplicates information. So you've got this color here, you've got a cool yellow and a cool blue, and it makes this color. But then you've also got the same combination right over here, where you've got a cool blue and a cool yellow. So what I did, and what some people do, is they do a lighter value on this side. So instead of just duplicating the information, you at least have slightly different information. So in this case, our cool blue and warm yellow mixture, cool blue and cool yellow mixture right here and here are the same color but different values. This one is just a little bit lighter. So that's why everything on this half of this square is lighter in value and this half is darker in value. The problem with that is you end up with the same color essentially clear across the page, and so you've got all these colors in between. It makes it really hard to see what the lighter value is of, for instance, this color here, CR and BS, BS and CR, that would be right here. So see, it takes a decent amount of work to figure out, okay, these are the same colors, but this one's darker and this one is lighter. It shouldn't be that difficult. It's better to have all of your values right next to each other so that you can clearly see, if you're painting something, what can I use this color as for a highlight or a midtone or a shadow? And having it with all these colors in between is really confusing, I think. So that's problem number two, is that the different values of the same color are too far apart on this chart. Whereas if you use something like this type of swatch, which is a little swatch card, then you can clearly see I mixed two different colors, a red and a blue, and these are all the different colors in between and the values that are associated with those in a lighter version. So along those lines, this color chart also doesn't show the steps between the two color combinations. So like I just said here, where I mixed two different colors, I had 3 different steps, so to speak, in between those two colors. Whereas here, if I'm just mixing a color, I'm only getting 1 step and then the lighter value of it. So I don't know if I were to mix, say, this is a warm blue and a warm yellow, if I were to mix more of the warm yellow in proportion to the warm blue, how would that color look different? And that's exactly what you get, again, with a swatch card like this. You can see that there are, in between yellow and blue, these different steps in here, showing you all the different combinations that you can make with those two colors. So just to clarify, the chart is only showing a 50-50 mixture, basically. Whereas this chart is showing this is 25% yellow and 75% blue. And this one is 50-50. And then this one is 25% yellow and 75% blue. There's more blue than yellow, and so that's why you get more of a teal color. You can take this even further and do more steps in between two colors with a chart similar to this. So here we've got our pure blue and pure red straight out of the tube, and instead of doing 3 steps in between two colors, like similar to this, instead of doing 3 steps, I did 4 steps in between those 2 pure pigments. The fourth problem I have with this type of mixing chart is that it doesn't show combinations of 3 colors. And you may want to have that when you are mixing something like a neutral. And a lot of times if you're working on a larger palette, you end up mixing more than 2 colors together. And so it's helpful to know what colors you're going to get if you mix 3 different tubes of paint. With a chart like this, I already showed you I've got the multiple steps between 2 colors up here and all those variations of purple that are in between this red and this blue. But I've also added a 3rd dimension with this yellow by adding a little bit of yellow to each of these mixtures to gradually bring it towards green or towards more of a burnt sienna color or towards more of an orangey reddish color. A chart like this or this is actually really helpful if you are trying to create a more harmonious painting and you're going to work with a limited palette. So in both of these cases, I just did, these are actually using the same colors, but in this case, I use a little bit more of the yellow, a little bit more strongly in the mixtures. And so we've got a little bit more yellow going on down here than we do up here. But if you were to work with a limited palette in a painting, you could get all of these colors from the same 3 tubes of paint, which is pretty amazing. There's all kinds of pretty secondary colors in here, as well as some nice muted colors and even some neutrals like grays and browns. So I show how to mix swatches and charts like these that are really useful in my color mixing classes. And you can see that all of these colors basically just use a combination of 3 primary colors, and you can get all of these beautiful colors from just a few tubes of paint. My 5th problem with this kind of standard color mixing chart that everyone does is that it's really difficult to find color combinations that work well together because there's no like cohesiveness or methodology to this really. It looks organized, but when you sit down and realize it, it's like, how often are you really going to mix black with like a raw umber? It's very rare that some of these combinations, that you'll want to create some of these combinations. And it's also just difficult to see what colors are going to look good together. Whereas if you have swatches like these, you can almost use them like little Pantone swatch cards and say, well, I like these bright purples and the bright greens together. I don't think I really like actually I do like the bright purple and the muted green together too. That's really pretty. So you can easily see with swatch cards like this what combinations of colors look good together. Whereas here, it's overwhelming. There's way too many colors going on and you can't easily see like, oh, this color looks good with maybe this one up here. I'm not sure. So that's my rant on this type of color mixing chart. I highly recommend if you've made one of these before and you've been discouraged and you still don't understand like warm versus cool colors or how to mix colors, I bet that you're probably making mud. That's everybody's biggest problem when it comes to color mixing, and that's why I actually created a class called Stop Making Mud that shows how to make these swatch cards, and then there's a neutral mixing class also that goes into more detail on using 3 different colors together. But you can probably figure out how to make these on your own just from this video, but if you want more help, I'll put the links below for those classes, and it will totally change how you see color. I've had people take the class after decades of frustration with color mixing, and they're like, okay, my mind was blown. So go check it out. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.